the first moment I saw you, I knew I had to make you mine. Wanted to know everything about you.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Spread the Space Network, a platform built by the community for the community. It's your girl, China Monroe, here, the executive director of the Spread Your Heart organization, the community that has brought you this platform that you're watching today. So I want you to tune in, get your drinks, get your popcorn ready, because we have a deep, intense story today that I think is going to motivate you, inspire you, and I hope you leave here today with a little bit of insight for maybe a situation that you may be going through. But we're in for a treat because I'm here with a woman who's endured unforeseeable tribulations, from dealing with sexual abuse as an adolescent to being the target of a murder case. The Rebound coach is here to share her story of reclaiming dignity and hope by choosing life. So please welcome ministry leaders and author of the book, I Chose Life, Dallas Kohen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, China. This is amazing.
Yes, definitely. So how are you? Let's just refresh, right? Mental health check. How are you today?
I'm well.
Yeah?
I'm well. And I put on social media today, you know, you can always be the inspiration of someone who's made it. And I said, if you're still breathing and putting one foot in front of the other, you've made it.
Exactly. And I mean, we're here today fulfilling our mission to help tell your story. So we made it.
That's right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So I just want to dive right into the meat of discussion. And for those that aren't familiar, I would like to share your story. So your ex-husband teamed up with his mistress to plot your death.
Yeah.
Right? Tell us more about that from the beginning.
Okay, so we backtrack. I was married 10 years to a man who wanted me dead. And that doesn't make a whole lot of sense for someone with my background. I grew up in a faith-based home. I had two parents, loved God, loved each other, were married for a lifetime till my mom passed away. And they were a self-sacrificial couple. I watched my dad be my mom's caretaker. So they were a good example of love and marriage and faith and family, right? At the same time, I was molested from the time I was 8 to the time I was 16. And that's unfortunately very, very common. It's 1 in 4 girls, women and girls, will experience some sort of sexual abuse before they turn 18.
Yeah.
It's, I think, 1 in 3 globally will experience something in her lifetime. And in the African American community, it's 1 in 2. That's literally half of the African American community. So it's very common. But as you know, those young years are identity forming years.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it radically affected how I saw myself, how I related to God in a household of faith, and how I related to men.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I met the man I married and eventually divorced. And there were red flags.
Okay.
You know, a lot of times we hear stories from survivors and they say, I had no idea. It was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He was all flowers and roses and then he turned into a monster.
Yeah.
That was not my story. There were red flags. There were concerns. Now, I did not anticipate him being an abuser. I did not anticipate him being a serial adulterer. But I knew that there would be challenges, right? So I didn't think that this was going to be easy. I didn't think this was going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah.
But I'm a woman of faith, even then. And I'm a praying woman. When I prayed about it, I believed God's answer was yes. And it wasn't just like a quick, hey, can I marry this guy prayer? It was a year's worth of really contemplative prayer. And I believe that, you know, because God's answer was yes, whatever came, we would outlast it. We would overcome it and God would swoop in and save the day and we'd be a testimony.
Yeah.
You know, that was the goal for me. And trouble came right away and never quite left. We got into a cycle of what I call coping and crisis.
Wow.
So this is where you're never safe or comfortable. You're always kind of on the edge, fight or flight, they call it. And you're coping, though. You found a way to try and mitigate his mood swings, and you learn his patterns, and you're trying to be very careful to keep everything together.
Yeah.
But no matter what you do, there's a crisis.
Yeah.
And it just kind of blows up the house of cards you've been so very carefully trying to keep together.
How soon in a relationship did the crisis start occurring? Was it like fresh out of the marriage, or did it take some time to start evolving?
In the space, in the betrayal recovery space, they call it D-Day. When you find out that someone's been betraying you, it's Discovery Day. My very first D-Day was like 15 days after the wedding.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So when I say right away,
Right.
It's a scary prospect, but I had to think, like, what are my choices right now? All my friends and family just saw me get married to this person.
Yes.
And honestly, if I'm honest, that decision was half about like that pride. Like, I can't do anything now. I can't do anything. We're only 2 weeks into this.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So it was just kind of like, well, I was finding things on the computer, conversations and unsavory websites, and
Wow.
I was finding things, and that was the first D-Day. So it was very quickly.
Did that change your perspective on the message you believe you received from God to proceed with the marriage? Did that change?
No, it didn't. And I'll tell you, I was married 10 years. And so I was very, very committed to my marriage, very committed to marriage.
Yeah.
And the understanding, God made a covenant, and this is a covenant. And, it became my professional platform in my years as a married woman. My first book was about that, about staying married and the covenant of marriage and how important that is, regardless of whatever cards you're dealt.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And was he a religious man? Did he grow up in the church as well?
Very, very much so.
Wow.
Now, we had a difference of doctrines that grew to a bigger difference as the years went on.
Okay.
But in the beginning, we were very aligned, and we shared a Hebrew faith. We shared a Judeo-Christian faith. And so, and it was in the name of God, I'm going to put air quotes there, that a lot of the abuse happened.
Wow.
And there's an entire dynamic of spiritual abuse that I didn't even know existed.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you said you've been finding things on his computer, some risque things that you started discovering. What type of things did you find?
Conversations. So a lot, when I say serial adulterer, the majority of that over the 10-year span was not physical, at least to my knowledge. There was some physical, but not the majority. The majority was emotional cheating in the DMs.
Okay.
So he had a social media pulpit, I would say.
Wow.
Okay, so they used to call that Facebook preacher. I don't know what they say today.
Yeah.
But that used to be the thing,
Yep.
So he would preach a lot online, and he kind of got a following, many women in the following. And so he would kind of choose and groom these women in his DMs. And after a while, you recognize the pattern. So I know how it starts. It starts with liking photos and a certain kind of compliment. Then you're getting in the conversation, and he would start saying not good things.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So that was, and there was pornography as well. Okay. That almost feels like a different issue. But the serial adultery, and he'd have 5 or 6 women at once.
Really?
And then I would find out, and I would confront him. And I did all the things that the wives do. So you confront, or you sneak and be detective, or you confront the woman, or like I did all the things. Different times I tried different. Well, maybe I'll try this time, and it didn't matter. So I'd find out, I'd confront, I'd blow up. He would delete all the messages, and there'd be silence for a period, and then it would just start again.
Wow. Wow. And when you found, all this information on him, did it make you feel like wow, I need to start planning next steps? Or did it make you feel like, what can I do to tighten this relationship? Or how can I fix this? Like, what was your approach when you discovered this?
Hopelessness. Hopelessness. Sure. I did not believe that divorce pleased God. I didn't believe that was the right choice to make. I believed, and if I'm fully transparent, I believe that was a weak choice to make. And I was very judgmental towards other divorced women, specifically women of faith. Well, they don't believe God enough, and I'm going to believe God enough. Yeah. And God can do anything, and this man says he loves God, and why wouldn't it work out well if I just stay and pray? And that was the approach. I'm just going to stay and pray and fight with everything I could fight with.
And was he doing this stuff sneakishly? Did everybody know? Like, everybody saw this coming?
No. Like I said, a lot of his people were online. There were a few crisis incidents where like people came locally, and then eventually, the big blow up, which I'm sure we'll get to, was kind of local. But no, the people in our quote unquote real life, and that's a dynamic of abuse, is isolation. So suddenly I couldn't go to church anymore. Oh, wow. In certain kind of Hebrew faith cultures, there's a lot of arguments over sacred days. And so community celebrations of faith I couldn't be a part of, because the community had this day and he would say, no, that's not the right day. This is the right day. So you have to stay home and be. So I was pulled out from the community who could see us. And I had a professional life that I needed to maintain. Yeah. And then public functions, you bring him and hope he doesn't say anything. Right? Because people who talked to him could tell that there was something wrong. Okay. Just from mental health. He had some mental health challenges. So it was, they could tell. But as far as the adultery, no. I did go to like spiritual people, the people who did premarital counseling for us. So I had a church community before I got married, and then he pulled me out shortly after. Okay. But I still knew them, so I would be like, hey, help, and anybody who got a whiff of what was happening would say, you should leave. And I was like, no, this is my marriage. This is my covenant. And like, it would make me like double down more. Wow. So were you ashamed to maybe reach out to family or peers, or you felt like, I got this, I'm going to lean to God, or, talk about that dynamic between your families, your loved ones, and then what was going on at home? So I didn't categorize what was happening as abuse. Okay. I had babies right away too. That was another dynamic. I got pregnant right away, and we had our first child the next year, and then my second daughter right after that. So they are less than a year apart. Okay. So very close. So I had these two babies, and I took a lot of pride in having a father for my kids. This is another thing in African American community. I did not want to be another Black single mother. Of course, which that's good, but also judgy. and I call that out because it's really common. People kind of look down their nose at someone in a different circumstance. And a mentor of mine says, you become who you judge. Yeah, for sure. And I didn't believe her, but it's true. Sure. Wow. How was he as a dad? I believe he loved his children. Okay. The abuse dynamic and the mental illness was dangerous for all of us. So the proponent to control and to manipulate, everything he told the children were not true. And, I didn't fight him on a lot of things because he's a grown man, that's his life. He want to believe what he want to believe. But when it came to the children, I would fight. Yeah. Because don't tell them that. That's not true. Yeah. Don't tell them that about God. Don't tell them that about other people. So that was a contention for us. over some of the things. And I just, small things like I took the kids to an activity where they did vision boards. So the kids brought home their vision boards and they're really proud of it. Look, Daddy, look what I made. And he was like, oh, you can't tell God what you want. And he would like tear it up.
Oh, wow.
You know, things like that, you know, which is an emotional abuse kind of thing, a spiritual abuse kind of thing. But I didn't have a title of abuse for it, but I knew that was wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
So we would, we would butt heads over things like that.
Yes. Wow. Okay, so let's go back to self-discovery. You're starting to find out things, finding out information. He's posting things online. And then what was that moment where you discovered the plot?
Okay, so this is many years later. Again, we were married 10 years, so we're towards the end of 2019. And I'm a life coach. I've been a life coach for like 25 years, knock on wood. So at that time, again, I was doing relationship and marriage. That was the kind of coaching I was doing. And we were putting on events. So I was putting on an event called In Love for Life. And I needed him to participate with me in part of it. And so we were like trying to practice that. And the environment of my house had just gotten so heavy. I'm a pretty spiritually sensitive person. So like you could feel like the weight, like it felt like there was no air in the place. And I just knew things were not okay. I didn't know what the pieces were, but it's like, something's not right. And if your normal is not right, and then you're like, something's wrong, it's really bad. So things just got like energetically worse and worse. And there was this woman, I couldn't, because he was with women all the time, I didn't know how this was different, except, like I wasn't studying it anymore, so I wasn't like in those details, but I could tell like something was really weird about this one. And it's wild. So I'm going to give you the headlines, and then you can zoom in as needed. Okay. Yeah. So end of 2019, he had a mental health issue and called the police and said I was dead. Oh my God. And it wasn't the first time that had happened. Wow. And in this later on, looking at paperwork and stuff, there was probably 15 to 17 different calls to the police over the years. And you don't know that until you're looking at the reports and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much of this. So he had called the police and said I was dead. Obviously I was not. And he called the police during the day, and I was like, listen, this always gets worse at night. What do I do? And they're like, we can't. When the police came, he was happy-go-lucky, offered the police some food, had fixed lunch for my daughters. Everything was fine. And they said, listen, we can't take him for emergency services. He's not showing to be a harm to himself or others.
And that was the first time he came out, or every time he called, they would come and he would put on this front?
This particular time was a really showy show.
Wow.
So that was during the day, and I was like, listen, what do I do? And they said, listen, if it's as bad as you say, you can go to the court and ask the judge to mandate him to get treatment. Okay. So that night he called the police and said I was dead. Now, mind you, like we're fighting, when I say fighting, I just mean arguing. There was a few instances of physical abuse, but the majority was not. Okay. So we're arguing, and I'm trying to go to bed, but he would steal money. Oh, wow. He would take my keys, so I couldn't leave. He'd block the door. So there were physical elements. So I was sleeping with my purse next to me, so that he couldn't take anything. And I was woken up by the police at the door. They said, "Oh, he told us there was a dead body here." Like, yeah, so I'm alive. and so eventually we convinced him to go with them to get treatment, but he went willingly, so he left willingly. He would not stay. He called me and he's like, come get me. I was like, nope, You're there, be there. Let me get a night's rest. And no, he got out and knocked on the door, and the nightmare was just not over. And eventually I did go to the courthouse and ask the judge for what's called an ex parte order, which is where you say, look, this is the situation, please help us. And that was granted. So they came and took him. So when he got out of that, which is really still 72-hour hold,
Yeah.
So once he got out of that, he was not okay, which was different than the pattern. So the pattern was, we'd have a crisis, he'd go get treatment, he'd come out a zombie, like zombie, so no much will for anything, just kind of zonked, and then eventually come to his version of normal. That's not what this was. He was not okay. He was manic, and I was really afraid. Like, how I've done everything I know to do. I've done the pattern that we do, and still, we're not okay. And he left like that night, and I didn't know where he went. It just disappeared. And in the moment, I'm not chasing him down. You're not going to come torment me tonight? Great, I'm going to sleep. The next day, I get a call from someone who was a third party to my then husband and his mistress. And it's a long story, which is why I wrote a book, but there was some stuff going on. So she had previously called me with death threats on his behalf. Yes. And I recognized the number who was calling me now that my husband was mysteriously gone. And I was not going to answer, but you know how you hang up and somebody calls right back and you hang up and they call. So it was that. And I finally picked up the phone and I said, what? And she's like, don't hang up. I just need to tell you this. And if you hate me and whatever you want to do after that, it's fine. But I need to tell you that they're together. They're trying to get a plane ticket to come down and kill you. What? wait, what? And so I listened to her, obviously, because she had my attention.
Yeah, and this also wasn't the first time at this point, right?
Well, the death threats were not the first time, and calling the police was not the first time, but the idea of, I've recruited someone else to come and attack you. First time me hearing that.
Yeah.
So as I sat and listened, she filled me in on everything I didn't know was happening. And come to find out, there was already a failed attempt by the time I even realized what was happening. And she filled in details that there's no way she could have known unless it was true, what she was saying. And she said she had bought a plane ticket for him to get out to her, and they were trying to get her to buy one for them to come back and attack me.
Wow. That was a lot to digest.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So then, what is your next move? What's your reaction after you have this conversation? What can you do?
So thank God, and I say thank God because God was in the details of this whole thing.
Definitely.
So thank God there were CPS professionals involved. And that's not fun. I don't say that like, woohoo, CPS.
Yeah.
It's traumatic. No matter what's going on in your life, it's traumatic to have CPS involved. But they were, because he was a danger.
Yeah.
And while he was still in the hospital, or right around the time he was released and gone. And I was at work, because, I'm a professional. So I was at work and I got a call. Hi, are you Dallas? Other name. And I was like, yes. Do you work at where I used to work?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm pulling up to your office now. I'm so-and-so from CPS. We need to talk. The way my body responded, I can't even say on camera, but yeah. So I'm listening to this lady and she's like, is the stuff you said to the judge true? Yep. So what are you going to do when he comes home, and, how do you feel about him and the kids and safety? I was like, I don't know. I don't even know where he's at. Like, good luck.
Yeah, that was my next thought. Like, CPS is there. How are you responding to your kids? How are you thinking about your kids and how they're impacted? Were you worried for them? I'm sure there was a sense of relief.
Yes,
Yeah.
but question marks.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't know what every day is going to hold. And, you know, they went to a private school that had transportation. And if I was not home, normally he would be home to receive them from school. Okay. But now he was gone. And so I had to get home in time. And if I missed it, they would take the kids back to the school. And I'm like, oh. So there was just so much practical, logistical things to manage, in addition to all the stress and the crisis that was unfolding. So there was a lot. There was a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of moving parts. I'm sure you were overwhelmed. You wanted to shut down. I'm sure it was just a lot on your shoulders.
Yeah, you have to just put one foot in front of the other. And so in the midst of CPS coming to my house 3 times a week.
Wow.
3 times a week, they're like, oh, you need services. I was like, so what if I don't want services?
Yeah.
Well, we can go to the court and make you have services.
Oh, mandate the services.
So there really is not a choice.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. But the scary thing is, like, if I mess up, they could take my kids. Like, this is
How
this
were
is
they
serious.
reacting at the time? I'm sure they were young, so it was like, okay, you know. But were they scared? Were they questioning, like, Mom, what's going on? How did they react?
There were questions, but there wasn't much I could say. I didn't know a lot. I didn't know a lot of answers. And they certainly didn't know about murder plots and things. And you know, for the first days or weeks he was gone, like, he would call and talk to the kids. And I have one that's very bold, and she's like, well, where are you? I have one very, very bold, beautiful daughter. Where are you? And he would kind of hint around, and I'd be like, please don't say that to her. Like, don't. I didn't. You
wanted to protect them.
Yeah,
of course.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's when I found out about the murder plot. I happened to have some professionals to tell. And so I was like, this is what I found out. And I'm like, okay, so I need you to go to this advocacy center and see if they can help you. I didn't even know what they would help me with. But they're like, here's a card, call this number, make an appointment. And that's all I knew to do. So we think we're trying to figure out our next 10 steps, and you can't. You can't, and you shouldn't even try. Yeah. All I had to do was whatever's right in front of me that day. So get through the workday, get home in time to catch the kids. That's what I had to do that day.
For sure.
Then I the professionals are here. Here's what's going on. They give you this card with this number. Call this number and make an appointment. That's all I got. What am I in an appointment for? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Call this number, make an appointment. All right, there's the appointment. Now show up to set appointment.
Yeah.
That's it. With my little kids, you know, they were like 6 and 7 in this time. So that's it. And then the lady's asking you questions. You answer your questions. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Then they have a next step for you to do, and you just take one step at a time.
Wow.
I didn't want him to come home. I wanted an end to the mess.
Wow.
You know, I wanted an end to the drama. And I didn't want that violence to come back.
Was that the moment that your perspective on marriage changed?
Probably not. It was. I wanted safety more than I wanted marital restoration. I think that's the switch that happened. But I did not foresee a divorce. Not at that time.
Wow.
And it was a spiritual mother of mine. Because I started reaching out for help, and that was another thing. I was a very independent woman, and you know, I give help. I didn't ask for help, and so I was forced to ask for help in this season because everything was a mess, and there was just no way I was going to do this by myself.
Was right there in front of you.
There was no way. So I started kind of sending up smoke signals. Hey, could you help me? And so I went to this prayer meeting, and I don't know if you believe in prophecy, but.
Yeah, definitely.
A word came from me, and it was like, there was a curse on your life, but God says he can't curse what God has blessed. And I remember it being because at that time, you know, you're still like, is this even true? Is this even real? Is this even what's happening? Is this the devil? You know, my husband was, or said he was, a prophet. And I believed that he had a true prophetic gift. Now it got real messy, but I believe what he had was from God. And so part of me is like, is the stuff he's saying true? Am I really cursed? Am I damned? Did I do these horrible things that he's saying I did? So to hear that word come from someone else, like the devil's trying to curse you through this situation, she didn't know my situation. It was such a confirmation, like, okay, all right, I'm not crazy. And maybe I won't die. And so I had asked my spiritual mother who was at that thing, I was like, hey, my kid can't sleep. Can you please come and just pray with us? And so she did, her and her husband, and they just listened to me. You know, they listened to me and they prayed with us and they prayed with my kids. And she's such a smooth operator, this lady. They're getting ready to leave and she just looks around. She's like, well, you know, maybe they'll come back and you won't live here anymore. And then she just goes on to talk about something else. Like she didn't just say that. And that was the seed I needed. So when she left, I was like, maybe I won't live here anymore. That's it. When you're in that swirl, you don't
can't hear and see anything.
You don't have no path.
Yeah.
So all it took was that little seed, like, oh, that's the thing to do. If she said leave, go, you know, fly, then I wouldn't have got it. But just that little seed was like, I can do that. So that was the next mission, to get to a safe place.
During this part of your story, at this particular time, with the courts involved and CPS, were you more reliant on your relationship with God? Did it strain it? Were you questioning the word or the messaging, considering your husband kind of maybe altered it or tainted it? How did that change your relationship with God at that time?
At that time, I was praying because I'm desperate.
Yeah.
I'm desperate. I can't function. So I am holding on to God with all my everything. I didn't have a lot of answers. So you know, I had lived a life of like, I'm very sure. I know exactly what God wants to do. I know exactly the way the world's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's so bad. but I lived that way. I was very sure of myself.
Yeah.
In this season, I was not sure of anything. I wasn't sure of anything other than I'm alive, I'm breathing. God, please save me. God, please help me. Tell me what to do. Oh my gosh, what do I do? I literally, backtracking, there was, before he left, it was so crazy. He wouldn't let me pray in the house. Like he would come over and hover. It was bad. So I had asked a friend, I'm like, hey, can I just go pray? I just need a space. And she says, yeah. So by the grace of God, he let me and the kids leave the house to go do that. And I sat in this lady's office and I didn't even have words to say to God. I had nothing. And writing helps me sometimes. So I had a journal and all it says was like, God, I don't know what to do. I think I might leave my husband. Could you help me? Like that's all it says.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was leaning on that. And eventually I did get mad at God and I was like, I quit. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Clearly you've misled me. I'm done. I'm mad. I spent like a year in that space.
Wow. So you mentioned you did a lot of writing and journaling. That was your way of getting through that and healing, right? Do you ever revisit some of your entries now?
Yes. So while the professionals were there, something that the psychologist told me was to write an outline of what was happening. So on this day, this occurred. On this day, this occurred, like bullets. And it helps ground you in reality because there's so much going on in the world, in your world.
Yeah.
And that outline and past journal entries became the outline for my book.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that. That's awesome. But I'm sure some of it, were there some things you buried that you're like, I don't want to read this. I don't even want to talk about it.
And yes, and fortunately/unfortunately, I had to revisit some of that recently.
Yeah, for sure.
I was telling us, and in my book, I have, you know, screenshots of some of the posts that he made. He had made so many posts about my death.
Wow.
Not clearly, I want Dallas to die, not clearly all cloaked in parable and symbolism and different things. But if you knew him, you knew his pattern, you knew exactly what he was talking about. Wow. And I had compiled a whole bunch of it for the police at one point. And I eventually burned my physical copies of that because I didn't want that energetically sitting in my house.
Yeah.
But the electronic copies I still have, and I revisited them because I was working on something, and just the amount of hatred, you know, and vitriol from someone who's supposed to be your spouse is hard.
Yeah, of course. You are strong. I can't even imagine, not even in the slightest.
By the grace of God.
Yes. So, wrapping up the story, the courts got involved, the judge got involved, he pled guilty, right? Or
so I got a restraining order. That was the only step I was okay with at first.
Okay.
So I got a restraining order. It was a 2-year restraining order. And he did admit in front of the judge, you know, yes, I posted that. And, well, did you mean to kill your wife? No, like he denied that, but the judge could see through. Mm-hmm. And so there was that. And then that was January 2020 is when I got to a new home. Mm-hmm. And just 3 months later, the world shut down.
Yeah, COVID.
And COVID was horrible for a lot of reasons. Mm-hmm. I was also thankful. I had prayed a prayer prior to the shutdown, and it was like, God, this is so much and so fast. Mm-hmm. If anything can slow down enough for me to like breathe, it would be nice if things just slowed down. And then the world slowed down.
Yeah, that'll do it.
And nobody was in a rush for anything. And it was bad, a worldwide crisis, but also good in that I could like slowly, in the process I needed, file paperwork. Mm-hmm. And we did Zoom court because that's what we were doing then. Mm-hmm. And that allowed me to get a divorce. Wow. In 2021. Yeah.
So you get the divorce, you got the restraining order, then the divorce. You and your kids move, you're turning over a new leaf. Mm-hmm. But he's still free?
Yep.
Is he free today?
No, okay. Unfortunately, he passed away last year.
How did you process that? I'm sure that uncovered so much again.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was a lot. And he had apparently been sick. Mm-hmm. And news would get to me one way or another. So I would somebody would call me and be like, are you still married to so-and-so? Because they came over here and this is what happened. So I would get little bits of status over the years, but I had learned that he was ill and his family began to care for him. And I was like, we're not going to upset the children with any of this information. Mm-hmm. Not until they need to know. And I requested from his family, I said, just if we get to the end and we don't know how long he has, and if it gets really bad, tell me, and I'll invite the children if they want to see their father. And that call came in April of last year.
Wow. How did they take it?
My kids are incredible. Just need to say that out loud. My kids are incredible. I told them, hey, if you want to go see your dad, you can. And they opted to do so. And so I took them and I said, listen, we're not rekindling anything. This is a goodbye.
Yeah.
And I had one that did not want to believe it. And everybody takes that kind of news differently.
Yes, of course.
So for me to watch them, I have one that's, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And she's crying and I'm comforting. And I have one that's like, and when's dinner?
Wow.
That's scary to me, but the professionals say everybody takes it different and it's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm being okay. But in the moment I was like, are you all right? So we, and even in that, God shows his hand in all of it. Mm-hmm. So right after all the crisis happened, I got my kids counseling. I got myself counseling. Mm-hmm. So their counselor was local and knew the family, knew him, knew his family. Mm-hmm. And when we got to the hospital that day, she happens to be working as a chaplain in the hospital, right there, runs into us in the hallway. Hey, are you looking for so-and-so? Yeah, I'll take you there. So she takes us there. She prays with us.
Wow.
When I tell you, God is all over the story.
Definitely.
God is all over the story. It's absolutely true. And stood outside the door and prayed and came through halfway to like rescue me and, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need anything? God is so good.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Okay, so wow, that was a lot. I'm like, this is crazy. Okay. So, who was Dallas then compared to who Dallas is now?
Oh, that's a great question. Dallas was a survivor and very self-reliant. Like, I need to have the world figured out, and having the world figured out is how I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my safe place. I was also extremely hopeless and spent a lot of that time suicidal because I didn't, the world I had figured out was you can't leave. You can't divorce. God doesn't want that. You know, so if this is what he gave you, this is what he gave you. And with that as a premise, I had no hope. He was not going to change. He didn't want to change. You know, and it would be a different situation if someone says, you know, hey, I'm sorry, I wanna be free, I wanna be healed. That's a different walk.
Yeah, definitely.
He didn't want that. He didn't want to stop cheating. He didn't want to stop. And so, okay, if that's what I've got and I have no choice, when is life gonna get better? It's not. You know, so I was very suicidal and depressed and hopeless, you know, but also with this exterior of, you know, I'm a professional, I'm a coach, and I have it together, and I know what I'm talking about.
For sure. Wow.
Yeah. Today, I would say, I would hope to say I'm more honest and humbled. You know, life will do that to you. Life will humble you. And so I have a more empathetic perspective, not just towards people who've been through what I've been through, but just people who made choices I wouldn't have made. You know, like, you know what? I really don't know what's going on with them. And I might not have the right interpretation.
Wow. You had talked about having that idea of those women or those type of women. And then now, you know, you've had to embrace what type of woman are you after this, before it, after it, during it. You know, it's like different phases that transform you. And was there ever a point where you didn't recognize yourself?
I think there's a point where you don't look in the mirror very much. And I don't mean the physical mirror, like you're not really mindful of yourself. And so the book I wrote is really about it. It's my story, but it's about identity. Okay. So the way I frame it is, you know, I could allow the identity that my ex-husband had planned for me, and honestly, the one that I had agreed to, and people take issue when I say that. But when you're not saying no, you're saying yes. And that's the truth. I was saying yes.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like I don't judge myself for that. Other people shouldn't judge themselves for that. But we should be honest.
Yeah.
Right? So I could allow that to tell me who I was allowed to become, how I was allowed to parent, how many days I had left on the planet. He had a death date written for me in the back of his Bible. He had told my children I wasn't going to make it through the end of 2019. Like he told them, your mom's going to die before the end of the year. So I could let that tell me who I was, or I could choose life. So the name of the book is I Choose Life. And the subtitle is Rewrite Your Love Story and Change Your Legacy. And when we say love story, it's not just about a romantic love, but how we learned to love and be loved, which is something that's in place before we meet any romantic partners.
Yeah.
That's the story that I am continuing to rewrite.
Yeah. And that is the overall movement of I Choose Life. That's the message that you want others to get across.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's awesome. So the book is more of a autobiographical narrative, but also a self-reflection journal.
Yes, it's a memoir, and we don't start with the marriage that went horribly wrong. We start in childhood because there were a set of circumstances that predisposed me to be okay with certain behavior. And we don't often think of that. We think, oh, these poor women have low self-esteem and they're terrible pickers, and if they only picked better. But there's psychopathy that happens way before then, way before we get to picking.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's important to take all that into account. So it is a story, but also a workbook, and also a journal, and also, ways to process your own story.
So what's the rebound coach? Where did that come into play?
It's crazy because that has nothing to do with marriage or anything. Like I mentioned, I've been a coach, life coach since 2001. And I started helping college students get into their field of study. Working in the field of study, I did success coaching for a little while for heart-centered entrepreneurs, I did women's coaching, and then I did marriage stuff. So in that journey, I had a coach that said, you're helping people bounce back. You should be the rebound coach. And that's how it started way back when I was talking about careers and your spark and working in ways that energize.
Right. So you've taken a part of your story, a part of your services in the community to help others, and meshed it into this I Choose Life movement, where you're now hosting this event to signify this movement, right, called the I Choose Life Community Impact Gala. It's happening October 10th. So that's very, very exciting. But tell the audience more about the event and what made you choose October?
So October 10th is my wedding anniversary.
You're still celebrating it.
Yeah.
Wow. But that helps you in the process, right?
Well, it's important for me to make something meaningful.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I like that.
That's important to me. And so the first anniversary where we had broken up, we were still legally married, but like everything was done.
Yeah.
People kind of either cry into a pint of ice cream or they have a divorce party. Neither one of those things felt like the right thing to do. So I had a disavowal ceremony. I invited some sacred ladies to come and hold space for me. And at that time, it was the first time I kind of shared the story in more fullness without like little pieces of like dying. For sure. Right? So they just held space for me. We wrote some things. We cried together. And it was just a really sacred space for me to kind of process. And so not only is that a service I offer clients now, it is every October-ish, I want to do something that matters to this kind of movement. So a few years back, I had a birthday showcase when I turned 40. I'm leaving that.
I never would have guessed it.
You're so kind. So I had a performing arts showcase, like a birthday showcase. I'm a performance artist. That was part of me that got to live again. After everything, I got to sing again. So it was a really beautiful time, and it was kind of like my coming out party. And this is an amplification of that. So involving the community of performing artists, visual artists, nonprofits that serve the mission, survivor-owned businesses, and the people that support this movement, who care about, domestic violence and child sexual abuse and trafficking, to really have a moment that mobilizes that here in the area.
Exactly. So you heard it here first. If this story resonated with you and you're interested in attending Dallas's Gala, October 10th, 2026, that is a Saturday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Yes.
Make sure you check out her website, thereboundcoach.com.
Yep.
And get your tickets. Get your tickets to this event. Even if you're not a survivor, support somebody. If you're looking for community and you're a survivor, now is your window. So definitely check out this event. And this was an amazing conversation. I'm going to be thinking about this all day. I already know. I'm going to be thinking about this all day. But before I leave here today, I have one final question for you. How do you think we can improve the message that's delivered by the church?
That's an amazing question. Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a lot of missed opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a lot of missed opportunities for me. Women who are extremely faith-based don't know whether or not it's okay to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared a message I don't agree with today. That safety is not as important as covenant.
Yeah.
It's not the truth. The truth is God loves those people more than He loves the institution. Both of the people, and restoration to God is more important than restoration to a spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes restoration to God requires the breaking of a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I found a community of women who were serious about God, and that was a big misconception I had. If you're serious about God, you wouldn't be married. It's just not the case. And tell the truth, and don't hold an ideology above a human.
Definitely. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you so much for your time today, Dallas. I genuinely enjoyed this, and I think this is probably going to be one of our best episodes, if you ask me. It was an honor to hear your story, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to help empower survivors, empower women, empower individuals in general through the event in October. So how are you feeling about the conversation? How are you feeling?
This was excellent. This was the only thing I would add. The I Choose Life Community Impact Gala will benefit a local nonprofit.
Yes.
Called the Sexual Integrity Project.
Absolutely.
So I forgot that we did mention that.
Yeah.
They are doing tremendous work in the community to help gentlemen who have been convicted of purchasing sex or have what they call unwanted sexual behaviors. Okay, so I think as an abused woman, my first desire was not to call my husband a monster.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want him to go to jail. I didn't want him to. That wasn't the first thing. I wanted him healed.
Yeah.
I wanted us to stay a family. I wanted what I called the good outcome. I did get a good outcome. It was not what I originally
envisioned.
Right. And so I believe that's the case for a lot of women. They love their men. They want their men whole. And not all men want that. But for those that do, there is a path.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that Sexual Integrity Project is doing is really powerful work, both in the prisons and in the community,
Mm-hmm.
to help men who don't want to be addicted to pornography, who don't want to, purchase sex, who don't want that.
Yeah.
And that's amazing work to decrease demand for human trafficking.
Exactly.
For abuse and for betrayals in marriages and stuff. So I'm really excited about amplifying their message and supporting in every way that I can to have that work done. It's the other side of survival.
Exactly. And not just, I like that it's not just geared towards women or women survivors. We're thinking about the men too, because it's full circle. It's just an individual. It's not based on a certain demographic. It's individual. So I love that. If you're watching this right now and you're experiencing any type of abuse, please call the Domestic Violence Support Hotline, 1-800-799-SAFE. Okay, that's 1-800-799-7233. So if you're watching this, pick up the phone, talk to somebody, find your community, find your support. I'm hoping this was your seed, right? The same way Dallas had her seed. I'm hoping this is your seed. All you have to do is reach out. To learn more about Dallas and the I Choose Life book, get your copy of the book again. Or maybe you want to book a coaching session, right? Maybe you need to talk. Make sure you visit her website, reboundcoach.com. Where can people find you online outside of your website?
Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Perfect.
And YouTube. Yes.
Yes. You have a lot of YouTube videos.
Yes.
You do.
Rebound Coach.
Nice. Check it out. And that's it for now. You guys already know the Spread the Space Network. Make sure you give this video a big like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more motivational content surrounding my mental health, individuality. Comment below. What did you think of Dallas's story? Maybe you have something to add to the conversation. Comment below. You can find Spread Your Heart on all platforms at the Spread Your Heart organization, just like that. Make sure you visit our website, thespreadyourheartorganization.org. And other than that, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.